And the last thing I really have for you is I need a Coach Lang's quote, something that you teach your players, something that you may say all the time to yourself.
Yeah. Let me put I was prepared, so I'm gonna I can make a plug. So my favorite book of all time is called The Last Lecture. I think there's also a YouTube video of the actual lecture himself. So this guy, Dr. Randy Pausch, who passed away of cancer, but he was a professor at Carnegie Mellon. And it's traditional for professors when they retire to give a final lecture on like whatever topic they want, right? It might not have anything to do with what they actually taught, but just kind of like their legacy. And he had terminal cancer, so he did his last lecture very young, but knowing that he wouldn't be around for much longer. And then he wrote a book about that last lecture, kind of in his last days. And I keep a stack of them on my desk at work, so if ever I'm in a meeting and I need somebody to figure something, I hand them a book and I'm like, go read this book and come back to me because it's a super short read. But the key question to keep asking is, are you spending your time on the right things? Because time is all you have. And that's really what I've tried to do is make sure if I'm going to spend my time doing it, it
Oh
better
my
be the right
God,
things.
Mia. Yeah, and when you take a pic, I like the way you pose a special way. Can deal with petty shit, I never let drama get in the way. And you can deal with none of your problems, cause you rather run away. It hurts the most when your family tend to be your biggest pain.
Welcome back to Fast Break Focus presented by 921 Media. Our background is still under construction, but it will be up and running soon. Today on Fast Break Focus, we're joined by a coach who's worn a lot of hats in women's basketball and has made an impact in every level that he's been at, from his roots in St. Louis to building a tough defensive unit at Francis Howell Central, to working with the St. Louis Surge and stepping into the college game with St. Mary's College before joining Central Methodist University. Coach Jeremy Lang has built a reputation for defense, energy, detail, and his culture. We're excited to dive into his journey, his coaching philosophy, and what it takes to develop athletes on and off the court. Please welcome to Fast Break Focus, Coach Jeremy Lang. How was that for you?
Thank you very much. That was great. I have to have you do that at practice every day. Remind them.
You can play this for him. So first thing I wanted to get into is like, what was it growing up in St. Louis? What was basketball looking like for you growing up?
Yeah, growing up in St. Louis is great. I'm incredibly proud of my hometown. I mean, everything about St. Louis and where I'm from and how I grew up when it came to sports and basketball. I mean, I didn't really dive into basketball being my main focus until, probably later than most. So, I mean, growing up, I played every sport I could do, as well as lots of art and music and everything that my parents were willing to pay for, I was going to go
Right.
do. So played basketball, played a lot of baseball, some football, and a lot of things in between. Did that. For me, I was probably pretty old school in that, every season had its sport for me. So
Right.
I didn't have the pleasure of traveling all summer long, playing AAU basketball. I was in baseball season,
Right.
and basketball season was basketball season. And as I, grew and started to figure out what I loved, I wish I could tell you right now that basketball was my best sport. It was not. It is a sport that I love the most, but I was much better with a bat and a ball.
Right.
So that took me a little bit further.
Right.
But then I got some incredible opportunities as a high school student where people brought me in to start coaching youth teams while I was still playing, and getting involved with young people, and really found that that was even more so than playing, that was my passion, was having an impact on, I've now coached from 3 years old through professional athletes now.
And that
So,
takes a patience at
like
three
you
years
mentioned,
old.
yeah, it takes a patient with 22-year-olds too. So sometimes I'd rather have the 3-year-olds.
I understand that. So you mentioned in high school that you started the coaching journey, but fresh out of high school, you really went into full coaching. What was it about coaching and what made you go and fresh out of high school, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, so I got to college with the intent to play baseball at college when I went. It didn't work out between injuries and, other things. And So when that journey ended, I knew I'm not someone that can sit still, and I had gotten a chance to coach some while I was in high school. So in Evansville, I mean, when you're in the state of Indiana, I mean, basketball rules that state.
Oh yeah.
So when I guess sophomore, junior year, I started reaching out to just local coaches in the area, telling them who I was, what my background was, and that this is something I wanted to pursue. And would anybody just let me volunteer to do whatever they needed? I'd like whatever way I can fill water bottles, I can sweep the floor, whatever it is, just to get to be in the gym and have a chance to learn and grow. And I got incredibly lucky that a guy by the name of Kurt Wilderman at Mater Dei High School in Evansville answered my email, which most people didn't. He said, "Hey, we got open gym today if you want to come and we can talk and we can see if it's a good fit." And I showed up, and I guess he liked me enough, and he's like, "I'm not really sure what you're gonna do, but happy to have somebody that's excited to be here every day." And I uh, I tell people all the time, especially people starting their coaching journey. My first year of coaching high school basketball, I don't know how many words I said. I was a fly on the ball. I rebounded. I did scouts. Back then we didn't have all like we weren't trading film online. So I was at game. I was driving all over the city, driving to games, doing our scouts in person, and whatever Coach Wilderman needed from me, I was willing to do. And then that next year with him, he started to give me more responsibility and chances to use my voice. And yeah, I'm very grateful for him willing to let somebody be around him who I was the only person on that staff that didn't attend Mater Dei as a student. So
Wow.
he took a pretty big risk to let somebody in his
Yeah.
community. And I'm all grateful to him.
You never know the helping hand that helps you. And it always it always finds a
Um,
way. It always finds a way.
Absolutely. And it's something I really tried to make a personal mission of mine is that I might not be able to help directly with every person that, when I found out pretty quick when you get into college, like all of a sudden your inbox is full of people asking for lots of things or sending you recruits. And I can't help everybody directly, but a commitment at least I've made to myself is that I'm going to answer every single email and phone call and text that I get. Even if it's late as I'm trying to get through them, but
Right.
somebody did it for me, so I make sure I do it for others.
I understand that. That's big time. That's really big time. So you've coached high school and you've coached AAU. So what is
Yep.
the differences that you notice in the game? For me, I noticed that high school, and I could be wrong, high school is a little bit more, we're going to develop you, but we need to get the W at the end of the day. And AAU is more of a, hey, let's
Yeah.
let's all work together and I'm gonna make you the best ball players that I can.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly well said. I mean, when we sit high school recruits in our office to talk to them about coming to play with us for us at CMU, we talk about that a lot because, um, as Coach Young, our head coach, he and I both were coached high school at some point in our careers, and I think we took a lot from it and understanding that, especially so I coached after Mater Dei, I was at public schools. So at public schools, it's really whoever shows up.
Yeah.
You can do your best to create a great culture and have be in the middle schools and elementary schools and all those things. But at the end of the day, who lives in your district and gets on a bus and comes to your school is who shows up. So, our job as high school coaches, exactly what you said, is to figure out how to win. So the example I always use is Trinity Matthews, who she plays at Principia College now. Just came off being the SLIAC Tournament Player of the Year last year. Super proud of her. But her junior year for us, she played the center, and her senior year for us, she played point guard. It was she was a person who wanted the basketball in her hand,
Right.
so we had to figure out how to put it in her hand as much as possible. And now she's thriving as a college forward. But I hope she's thankful for having to been a point guard, even though that was uncomfortable for her.
Right.
And then on the AAU, yeah, I mean the AAU said I think you certainly have if you want to be in the AAU game, you better win, or those parents are going to find a new home for their kid. So it's a tough balance. right? Of doing that, but also knowing your job is to um, prepare them both for their high school coach and college. So I tried to reach out to all of their high school coaches and ask them, like, what do you need from them this upcoming season? So let's make sure that they're getting great reps at the roles that they're going to do in high school, but also knowing how we can project and prepare them. Most often it happens right at players that play fours and fives in high school that really project as college twos and threes.
That's
So,
a big
helping
problem.
them stretch the floor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's huge. I found that our like the boys that I coached found a little bit easier to make that transition. Maybe it's just because they were told from a young age that they should just go start jacking up threes, and maybe my girl was told to do that as much. But so getting them to feel that freedom and not be pigeonholed into one area. But then knowing when they get back to high school, they got to go do their job because it's their coach's
Right.
job to win.
Yeah, that's big time. Yeah, I agree with that everything that you said. It's a very fine line of each one, no matter if it's high school or if it's AAU, it's a very fine line that you got to really walk in and everything. So just moving forward through your journey, you then became the assistant GM and the head of basketball operations, excuse me, at Larry Hughes Basketball Academy. How was that opportunity? And obviously, you flourished because I'm gonna tell the people you grew the program from 5 teams to 40 teams. So how was that
Yeah.
experience?
When you're a kid from St. Louis, Larry Hughes is a pretty important person to you. At the time, right, the greatest player to come out of St. Louis, I'd still say pretty dang high up
Hmm.
there. I mean, St. Louis basketball on both the men's and the women's side between, Shug Sutton and Nafisa Collier and the W and Brad Beal and Jason Tatum, and I know I'm missing many others that are in the league right now, but those kind of being the top of it. I mean, we're doing pretty good for ourselves. So when you're a kid from St. Louis and Larry Hughes is kind of around, so at first when I had taken a job that kind of took me away from being able to coach high school. So I wanted to figure out how to stay in the game. So I reached out to his program at the time just to do skills training. And when I got there, they were just working out of a local high school and we were training there. And, Larry started to share his vision of building a brick and mortar facility, training facility. And when I heard that, I really just pitched myself and said, this is what I'd really like to be doing full time. Here's my background. I've done lots of operations and hiring and staff training and things like outside of the basketball world. And then I have my basketball side. So I felt like this was a perfect opportunity to kind of combine my professional and basketball expertise together and, following his vision to help him, design and build his facility in St. Louis. And then spending some time to understand, he's very big in the skill development space. So
Hmm.
that's really where he wants most of his focus to be. And what I kind of sold him on was um, trying to become a one-stop shop. So versus us being the skills training and then having to send them on to somewhere else, especially in the AAU in that world right now, like every club wants to be also the trainers of their kids. So
Hmm.
um, we're we're seeing parents get pulled in lots of directions, and what I kept hearing from parents is we'd love to just drop them off for everything, do their strength and conditioning, do their training, and play for your team. And so we slowly just started to build out and try to just take an approach that was holistic. Affordable was a big thing for me.
Hmm.
How can we so when we did that, so when it combined the strength and conditioning and they had 2 to 3 training, like skills training and their two team practices, plus their whole season of games built into that price package point and in a beautiful facility that, we didn't have to hunt around a bunch of gyms to get to. A lot of resources to be successful. And then more than anything was finding really, really great coaches that were passionate about our kids. And I got really lucky, and I'm very grateful and proud of all of them. And a lot of them have gone on to do some pretty cool things in the basketball space since then.
I'm learning from you. You're a real go-getter. You're a real go-getter. You wanted the job and you said, I'm gonna go get it.
I mean, the worst thing anybody can say to me is no, right? And I've sure as heck heard it a lot, so it doesn't really bother me much anymore.
And that's the reason, one of the reasons I felt comfortable reaching out to people and like you, for example, for an interview is just what's the worst you could say? Read it and not respond? You never know. Somebody like you could say yes and then, jump on and we have a good conversation and everything. So
Exactly.
so I understand where you come from, the go-getter mindset, and I'm just listening to you speak, I can tell that you definitely have it.
Thank you.
So, after that, you move on to St. Mary's College, first as an assistant, then you get a call up to be a little bit more of a role. Can you speak on just that portion of it?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting time. So, the greatest mentor in my college and my basketball life, her name's Haley Leak. I'll speak about her whenever I can. She was the head coach at Francis House Central. She's still the head coach there, 200 plus wins. She's, in my opinion, probably top 20 high school coaches in the country. I mean, what she's been able to do at a public school in that area, dense and lots of other things, and competing in a state of Missouri, which privates and publics compete against each other. So,
Mm,
versus other states where, she
yeah.
might be a state championship if she only had to go to public schools. And she finally kind of gave me the courage to leave the nest and trying to make the coaching side of things what I did full time. So when I was looking for college opportunities, I was looking, close to home, or my brother lives in DC. So we looked out, my wife and I looked out on the East Coast, and St. Mary's. It actually turned out that so the head coach of St. Mary's at the time, she had a connection with Shimmy Miller, who was the head coach at St. Louis University before being an assistant at Minnesota. And Haley played for Shimmy. So it just kind of worked out. And I ended up,
Hmm.
that being a good fit to go out there. The plan is to be there for a couple of years. Being a D3 assistant, you're not making a lot of money. It's not really a long-term, but a chance to get my foot in the door and have some great experience. She ends up getting, a bigger job, a higher paying job. Um, I knew that it probably wasn't in my long-term plan to become the head coach at St. Mary, so I chose not to apply for the head coaching role. But I wanted to stay on because I'd built such a strong relationship with the team and I'd recruited these players. I
Hmm.
believed that we were going to have a really strong season, and I've really tried my best not to be in one place for just one season. So, the AD was like, "We'd love to have you to have some continuity to stay over with the new head coach." The new head coach doesn't end up getting hired until September that
Mm,
year. So, yeah, I'm serving
real
kind
late in
of
the
in
game.
this role through our recruiting process, through our summer stuff and our fall training and I mean, from for quite a while, and finally, we hire a new head coach. And then unfortunately, we have some other things that take her away from the team at the beginning of the season, and step into that role to coach our first team and get us through the first game and get us through the first bit of the season. So, yeah, it was kind of a whirlwind of, that last year was not what I was prepared for in year two, building off of the success we had in year one. But um, yeah, it was crazy, but everything's a learning opportunity.
Now, I'm going to read some stats off for you, coach, and you can confirm or
Sure.
deny these things. Now,
Okay.
I through my studies, I've found that you're a defensive guru. Something about you,
Okay.
defense follows. In high school, you gave up 39.4 points per game. You did 34 points per game. That was your average. And then you go to the 24 season, the first year you were there, you averaged 41 rebounds, which is minus one and a half point differential. You had a plus 15 points off of turnovers, 9.1 steals, which is a minus 2.2, and then you averaged 3 blocks. Now the next year, you guys up your rebounding by point 0.5, but you improved your differential to plus 3.3. You up your points off turnovers to 20. You upped your steals to 12.4, and you upped your blocks to 3.3, which is all an improvement from the year before you came in 2023, when all those numbers were below those numbers. So what about defense is it with you? I'm figuring it out with you. You like defense.
You know, uh, I think until this season, so now my title now at CMU is my associate coach, but I'm also our defensive coordinator, and that's really what Coach Young brought me in to do. Um, but I think for years and years, I would have told you if you were like, what are you most proficient in? I would say I'm an offensive. I mean, I was a skills trainer, so I'm working with people and learning how to score the ball. And I don't know. I think at some point, most of a lot of my success is back to Coach Leak at Hal Central and um, the concepts that she put in, and then the her willingness to let me give crazy ideas and the confidence that I gained from trying it out and having a ton of success there doing it. Um, that's kind of given me the ability to keep doing that. At St. Mary's, I would love to take all the credit. I don't think I could take all that credit. We had two tremendous recruiting classes in a row. We got bigger, we got stronger, we got faster. I'm gonna attribute most of my success to those players who
Hmm.
they just got the job done no matter what. And I was really, really lucky. I'm really excited. They returned pretty much everybody. So I'm really excited and hopeful that they can see themselves in the NCAA tournament this comes upcoming season. I believe they can. And but they bought in. We didn't really at St. Mary at House Central we schemed. I mean, we played 1-3-1. We played super aggressive defense. We did all these things at St. Mary's. We played quite a lot of 2-3 zone. Some really pretty traditional man-to-man. But our players just bought all the way in, and that's been my philosophy, you know, everywhere. As if no matter, I think you can win playing any kind of style, um, but your players have to be all the way in. And so, to their credit, especially in year two, they left that year before left a pretty sour taste in their mouth, getting knocked out in the second round of our tournament. And so they said, we're just going to beat everybody's brains in this year. And that's how we lost one game in the regular season in conference play.
Hmm.
And if you look at those conference staff, I mean, we took care of them. And that's just really to their credit. They brought all the way in that we're gonna go out there every day, no matter what we're being asked to do, we're gonna do it 100%.
I know that's right.
So yeah, I'll be really excited to see what you think of us at CMU this year because we're gonna be different. The Heart of America conference is, in my opinion, one of the toughest NAIA conferences in the entire country, both
Hmm.
just in terms of how good the teams are, but in terms of physicality. So we're trying to do some new things and throw people for a loop. And we want to be unpredictable. We want to be uh, we want you to have to plan for us every night. We're gonna be the number one scout because you can't just be like, oh, they'll play 2-3 zone, or they're gonna hedge ball screens, they're gonna go under, but like you're gonna be like, we got to figure out what the heck those guys are doing over there.
That is real nice. And like I said, I believe you're a guru, so I think you guys will be very well. I have the podcast has followed the page, so you guys is women's basketball page, so we will be keeping up with you guys and we'll be shouting you guys out and shouting you out, of course, because once again, I say you're a defensive guru, and I'm gonna take this out, but I think you're going far places just based off those numbers
Yeah,
there. Just based off those number there, I think you're going far places.
thanks.
So, just now talking about CMU. What I know you talk about the expectations that you guys have in a tough conference. What about your team do you like that going against these other teams?
I think, you know, um, so our pillars at CMU are fierce, connected champions. And so that's why we're going to be on both sides of the basketball. And I think that middle word for me is the most important word. Like I just said at St. Mary's, where we didn't do anything fancy there, and we figured out how to get the job done. I think we're going to be the most connected team on the floor every night. We just had practice number 3 of the season tonight. They're learning a ton. I mean, they're learning a lot of new terminology, a lot of things that they've never experienced before. But What I told them, because we had one play in particular tonight where they didn't do anything I asked of them. I mean, they messed up the defensive assignment terribly, but then we had a freshman come in and just block the heck out of this shot. So everything went wrong, but we got the stop. And that's what I told him. I was like, look, at the end of the day, if nothing works, but we figure out how to get it done, we're going to win a lot of basketball games. And if we can build on top of that, you know, and we start doing the things we want to do, it'll make it a lot easier. So I think what my expectations of this team are is I think it's going to take us a while to figure out who's going to play what role. We return one player with that played significant. We have a couple players that played some decent minutes, but really only one that had a significant amount of contributions offensively, who was ended up being an all-conference player. So a lot of minutes, a lot of points up for grab. Some returners that certainly would like that role, and then a lot of new people, both transfers and freshmen, that are hungry to get out there. So I mean, they're competing like crazy in practice every day for a shot to get out on the court and prove that what they want to do. But I mean, this conference is going to send 3 or 4 teams to the NCAA or to the NAIA tournament, and we plan to be one of them.
I know that's right. So yeah, like you said, it's one of the tougher conferences. And I was looking at it, and you guys got your work cut out for you, but I think that y'all be all right. I was looking at the roster from last year. I was looking at the recruits and stuff like that y'all brought in. So I think y'all be all right. Cross the fingers. I think y'all
Yeah, that's the plan. I only know one way, and I'm a bad loser, so we'll figure it out.
I know that's right. So, through my studies, I learned that you recently went to Ireland. Can you speak about that experience? 'Cause that sounds amazing.
It was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. It's another one of those things, like you said, like I just ask until somebody says no. And my career, my ultimate career goal is to coach with the national team. I would love to coach in the Olympics one day. That's my ultimate basketball dream. So I want to start getting experience, and I love to watch European basketball. So for the last couple of years, I've just been reaching out to see who might need a great camp clinician to come over and teach some, concepts that we work on over here. And it kind of happened kind of crazy the last minute that I reached out to the director of their national camps, and he shot me a message on WhatsApp, and he's like, "Can you be here in, 2.5 weeks?" So I found a last minute flight and got on the plane, and got to spend 2 weeks there coaching at their national camps, which is players from all over that country coming to the center of the country to get coached by national team coaches, and then our assistant coaches are players that are on the national team and in the national program. So it was cool to get to work with those players as serving as our assistant coaches, and then they bring in a couple guest coaches from other parts. So one of my good friends from Valencia Basket in Spain was there, and myself to get to do that. And I certainly had some learning in terms of FIBA basketball, and I made some wrong calls and not knowing the rules, so that humbled me in terms of FIBA and Olympic
Yeah.
basketball. But what was the best part was how hungry these kids were to learn. I mean, they're like, this is the American, this is the best basketball in the world, right? That we see every
Right.
day. I mean, every minute they were, "Hey, can you come? It's lunchtime. Can you come get shots with me?" I was like, "No, I'm gonna go eat lunch." But after lunch, I'm happy to go, talk this through. When we did chalk talks, I mean, they have, I mean, a million questions about different things they want, to talk. Like, what's your team like? Because all of them want to come play college basketball in America, and um, so to get to be, it just kind of rejuvenated my love of this game to see. I think we take for granted over here all of the resources and opportunities that our kids have. And those kids over there that, basketball is such a young sport in Ireland that any chance they have to get somebody that comes over with new knowledge for them, they want every little bit of it. And it was really, really fun.
What would you notice the biggest change? Not you could say basketball related, or it could be lifestyle change from Ireland into America, especially the Midwest, where you're from.
Oh, yeah. I mean, lifestyle. they don't really compare very much at all. At least in terms, I mean, over here, right? I lived in the live in now I live, a little more rural area, but I'm from St. Louis, and I lived in the city, so that was certainly different. But on a lifestyle side, Ireland was so cool because it's so re like everything's around their town center, and then it kind of roll around it. So I really loved being able to park myself in a city center and get to walk around, but then, drive a couple hours and be in like a totally new part of that country. I mean, you could get around that whole country in 2 weeks and you've seen, you've been around the whole, it's so small, but every part of that country is so different. They speak different, right? Their
Hmm.
accent's different, their cuisine's different, and that was pretty cool. On the basketball side, they're very similar to a lot of other, European basketball countries where their spacing is a million times better than our kids. Their understanding of what great shots are. They do defensive concepts like, tagging up or how they switch or how they use and how like they're way ahead of us in those areas,
Right.
for sure. That's just how they grew up playing. When we talk to recruit, because we have four international players on our roster, and
Hmm.
so I love that about their game. Where I think our American players are certainly more advanced in terms of like they're better ball handlers, they're better in
Hmm.
one-on-one situations, just because of that's how we play over here.
Yeah.
They grow up playing, on the playground, in gym class, playing ISO basketball where that doesn't really happen over there. So it's fun to get to combine those two styles and see what we can work with them.
That's really good. So, I know you recently got married,
I
and you
did, yes.
saying, first of congratulations, but you saying that
Thank
you
you.
had to turn around in 2 weeks. How was that conversation?
From getting married?
No, I'm talking about for
What do
saying
you,
that
what
just having to leave to go to Ireland. How was that
oh,
conversation?
I went to Ireland last year.
Okay, okay, gotcha, gotcha,
So we got married this August, but this was crazy too because we had planned this wedding around my St. Mary's schedule.
gotcha.
So we didn't start till September at St. Mary's. So we got married on August 14th, and it turns out at CMU, our players arrived on August 13th. So luckily, Coach Young, this was already, so we went and got married up in Boston. But then I had to be back Sunday night for our first meet. So I got married on a Thursday up in Boston, have a couple days with our family, and then fly back here, uh, and have to be in the gym on Sunday. So,
Where did you say you got
I
married?
think when you're in Boston,
Massachusetts?
yeah.
Well, first of all, what you doing there? I'm from Boston. I was born and raised in Boston, so I'm glad that you
Oh, right
enjoyed it.
on.
Yeah, but what made Boston your destination?
Um, yeah, so my mother is from Lexington, Mass.
Gotcha,
So my grandfather's 98. He doesn't
gotcha.
travel anymore. So my wife agreed that we would go up there and so he could get to be there. But yeah, but we didn't plan on having to, so we moved from Maryland July 15th. We then go get married in Boston on August 14th. And then I'm back on August 17th to start school. So, you know, if you want to do this business, you better be ready for things to happen in a hurry.
I know that's right,
And
because that is a
and
quick
if
turnaround.
yeah, yeah, luckily I have an incredible wife who is the most supportive person throughout this entire journey, and not just along for the ride, but she wants to be a partner, and she wants to know our team and our players and be involved, and it's yeah, I couldn't
You
do this
spent
without
time at a Montessori school. Can you tell me what's that
her.
all about for people who don't know?
So Montessori is a education philosophy, built on teaching the whole child. So, I mean, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
And so, what drove you to that, and what were some of the things that you guys do versus a normal regular type of school?
Yeah, I don't know that anything really drove me to it. I think the job that they had open in particular excited me. I didn't know anything about Montessori at the time when I applied for the job. So my job there was I had a lot of jobs when you're at a small school. So, but my main two jobs were in charge of their like basically all their extracurriculars. So their after school program and any activities, and then their summer camp. So, but the school itself, I think what I loved so much about it is physically it was set up to just be different. So every classroom was kind of its own house for the younger students, right? So 2 to 5 or 6. And then as I got older, it started to look a little bit more like a traditional classroom, but the space and the layout is very intentional because it's very self-guided. So their teachers, in fact, are called guides that they have a curriculum, right? They're meant to still get through all the things that we're supposed to get through. Um, but they're working with these children kind of individually at their own pace. So when one child is ready to learn one thing, that other child might not be ready to learn that thing. So typically there's 2 teachers in a classroom at a time, sometimes more. They're pulling a group of them that are ready for this topic. So multiplication, and they're going to walk through it, and they're going to use different modalities and things to talk about it. While this other group might be working on something totally different, that they're just at a different pace in their process and learning. And then the others are working on, they call it doing their work, right? Just like we do our work every day. So there might be a kid over here doing an investigation and some science, a kid over there that might be forming a pretend business, and another kid over there might be working on playing the guitar. And they're all working in this space together at their own journey. And I think one of my favorite parts about it is classrooms are mixed age. So it's not just like fifth grade. It like for us to understand, it'd be like third, fourth, and fifth grade are in the same classroom, right? Because for the same reason, kids are learning at different paces, different things. It also makes classroom management way easier because the fifth graders, just like on our basketball team, where our senior is supposed to tell our freshmen what to do, that fifth grade age student is setting a good example for when that third grader comes in and starts to cause chaos, they're like, knock it off. That's not what we do in our classroom, right? I've been here for 2 years. So it was a pretty cool environment to get to be in.
Do you think that environment and that those teachings, do you think that helped your coaching?
Oh my gosh, tremendously. Just understanding and becoming a lot more patient with where everybody is in their journey. Now, there's times when you're working on a college basketball team where like, I just got to get you guys to get on the same page no matter what, even if you're not ready to get on the same page. And some of that to me, showing some humility, being like, I didn't explain this well, or they're just not ready, and we got to make a different decision. So definitely taught me that. And then, um, I think those kids ask such good questions, and they teach you that just because you're older and you've done more things doesn't make you right. And when a fourth grader is like, I just did a bunch of research on this and I think you're wrong. And then you look at the research and you're like, man, I was wrong. Um, you know, okay, we can all learn something from everybody, no matter if they're 8 years old or however old.
Right. So just to wrap things up, this new type of question I want to ask in this new rebrand that we're putting out. What is the shot or the moment that sticks with you the most? It could be good or bad in your coaching career. The one that keeps you up.
I think keeps me like in a bad way or in a good way.
It's either or.
Okay, okay. I think the shot I come back to the most, we had on our House Central team, we had a senior. Her name is Kendall Webster. We're playing an incredibly tough uh, district tournament game against Pattonville High School, who was tough as nails. The head coach is now Cardinal Ritter here in St. Louis, which was a tremendous program, and he ran a really great program at Pattonville. And so that we'd always battle and kind of knew throughout the whole season we were going to have to run into them if we wanted to win a district championship. And uh, she, in practice, probably one of our best 3-point shooters. She just hadn't done a lot of, she hadn't panned out in terms of offensively, and she'll tell you the same thing that we thought she would do. But incredible defender. Hard to take her off the court, did a lot of intangibles, even though she wasn't putting the ball in the hoop. And, you know, the basketball gods seem to put the basketball in the hand of the person that you don't really want it to be in. So game on the line. I don't, she drives to the hoop, she gets fouled. Um, time is pretty much expired, and so she goes to the free throw line in a tie game, and she sinks both of them. And I don't think she'd shot 5 free throws this whole season, and was probably shooting 20% from the line. But drills both of them. I mean, it's in our home gym. Not a person is breathing, and I couldn't be more. I mean, obviously, incredibly happy for our entire team. But for a kid that had worked so hard and this to be the moment, and I promise she did not want to be at that line. But all the work for her to have 4 years of an incredible amount of work. There's no 1,000 point scoring banner coming up for her. There's no her jersey not getting retired, but that moment will live on that with all of us on that staff, and I hope with her and her family that when her number was called, she came through, and I always like you got to be ready whenever it is, and she certainly was.
It's always the ones you least expected, huh?
Yes, I love that kid. One of my favorites. Not that we're supposed to have favorites, but we do.
I
It's okay.
understand. I understand. I understand how it goes. And the last thing I really have for you is I need a Coach Lang's quote, something that you teach your players, something that you may say all the time to yourself.
Yeah. Let me put. I was prepared, so I'm gonna. I can make a plug. So my favorite book of all time is called The Last Lecture. I think there's also a YouTube video of the actual lecture himself. So this guy, Dr. Randy Pausch, who passed away of cancer, but he was a professor at Carnegie Mellon. And it's traditional for professors when they retire to give a final lecture on like whatever topic they want, right? It might not have anything to do with what they actually taught, but just kind of like their legacy. And he had terminal cancer, so he did his last lecture very young, but knowing that he wouldn't be around for much longer. And then he wrote a book about that last lecture, kind of in his last days. And I keep a stack of them on my desk at work, so if ever I'm in a meeting and I need somebody to figure something, I hand them a book and I'm like, go read this book and come back to me because it's a super short read. But the quote that really sticks out to me from there is he says, the key question to keep asking is, are you spending your time on the right things? Because time is all you have. And that's really what I've tried to do is make sure if I'm going to spend my time doing it, it better be the right things.
That's a good one. I like that one. I like that one. So thank you so much, Coach Lang, for jumping on the podcast as Fast Break Focus. It has been a great time. You are always welcome. We are going to be keeping up with your season, and we hope for nothing but the success. Is there anybody you want to shout out? Anybody you want to give some kudos to?
Yeah, I mean, I always got to shout out my wife, Cheney, for you know, being my motivation and my anchor, and my swift kick in the butt when I need it. Of course, my parents and my brother who have been along for this kind of crazy Jersey journey and have been nothing but support. And then, I want to shout out again, Coach Kurt Wilderman who gave me my start in this journey. And then I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, Coach Haley Leak. If you want to watch some film and you want to learn something, find a time to get in her gym, call her, pick her brain, watch some film, and she's incredible. And I hope to be her friend for a long time. So, but thank you. This was a lot of fun. I'm a coach, so right, of course I'm long-winded, but if I get a chance to talk basketball and talk my journey and talk about my players, then I'll do it all day long.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. Hopefully, we have you on in the here soon in the future after the season and get an update for you guys.
Yeah. All right. Go Eagles.
Thank you so much.
We pop out your ass in trouble. Yeah. And when you take a pic, I like the way you pose a special way.